Classical Greek is considered by the international academies as one of the most precious gems that man has ever developed, contributed by the ancient Greek civilization who made extraordinary achievement in science, philosophy, literature, and arts. Greek poets, playwrights, and historians wrote enduring masterpieces. Artists and architects created simple and beautiful styles that continue to serve as models. Greek thinkers possess a tremendous curiosity about their world and people's place in it. They question and analyze everything from nature to government to the meaning of life in examining these questions. Greek thinkers search for answers based on reasons, fact, and logic. They develop methods and ways of thinking that are the foundation of modern science and philosophy. Greek mythology was championed by the famous Greek poet and author, Homer. The theological beliefs and religion of the ancient Greeks were taught and based from the most distinguished and prince of poets, Homer. According to tradition, this distinguished poet was born during the 8th century BC. He was a blind poet who lived in Asia Minor. His two great epics, the Iliad and Odyssey, helped to shape the Greek outlook and character. For centuries, Greek children grew up reciting Homer's works and learning about the deeds and legendary heroes. The stories told in Homer's epic take place near the end of the Trojan War, a struggle between the Mycenaean Greeks and warriors from the city of Troy in Asia Minor. The war is believed to have actually been fought by warriors allied with the king of Mycenae about 1300 BC. According to Homer, the war broke out when a Trojan prince named Paris kidnapped the Greek king's wife Helen, who was famous for her beauty. The war was finally won by the Greeks, who captured Troy by trickery. The heroes of the Iliad are the Greek warrior Achilles and the Trojan prince Hector. The Odyssey describes the adventure of the hero Odysseus on his way home to Greece after the Trojan War. The Iliad and the Odyssey are works of poetry, not history. Yet both works provide insight into the ways of life, outlooks, and values of the early Greeks. In the Iliad, Homer spoke of the deeds of noble warriors who were not only brave and skillful in battle but also concerned about their honor and pride.
Achilles, the son of the military man Peleus and the sea nymph Thetis, the most powerful warrior in the Iliad. Achilles commands the Myrmidons, soldiers from his homeland of Phthia in Greece. Proud and headstrong, he takes offense easily and reacts with blistering indignation when he perceives that his honor has been slighted. Achilles' wrath at Agamemnon for taking his war prize, the maiden embraces, forms the main subject of the Iliad. Agamemnon, king of Mycenae and leader of the Achaean army, brother of King Menelaus of Sparta. Arrogant and often selfish, Agamemnon provides the Achaeans with strong but sometimes reckless and self-serving leadership. Patroclus, Achilles' beloved friend, companion, and advisor. Patroclus grew up alongside the great warrior Phthia under the guardianship of Peleus. Odysseus, a fine warrior and the cleverest of the Achaean commanders. Along with Nestor, Odysseus is one of the Achaeans' two best public speakers. Great Ajax, an Achaean commander. Great Ajax, sometimes called Telamonian Ajax or simply Ajax, is the second mightiest Achaean warrior after Achilles. His extraordinary size and strength helped him to wound Hector twice by hitting him with boulders.
Nestor, king of Pylos and the oldest Asian commander. Although age has taken much of Nestor's physical strength, it has left him with great wisdom. Menelaus, king of Sparta, the younger brother of Agamemnon. While it is the abduction of his wife, Helen, by the Trojan prince Paris that sparks the Trojan War. Hector, A son of King Priam and Queen Hecuba, Hector is the mightiest warrior in the Trojan army. He mirrors Achilles in some of his flaws, but his bloodlust is not as great as that of Achilles. Paris, also known as Alexander, a son of Priam and Hecuba and brother of Hector. Paris' abduction of the beautiful Helen, wife of Menelaus, sparked the Trojan War.
Helen refused to be the most beautiful woman in the ancient world. Helen is stolen from her husband. Andromache, Hector's loving wife. Accordingly, is Hector without from war and saved himself before the achievement is kill him. Lacus is a power of Trojan, the warrior glorious, glorified and with the diamonds. Zeus, the king of goods, and husband in Hera.
Queen of the gods and Zeus' wife. Hera is a conniving, headstrong woman. Thetis, a sea nymph and the devoted mother of Achilles. Artemis, goddess of the hunt, daughter of Zeus, and twin sister of Apollo. Artemis supports the Trojans in the war. Ares, god of war and lover of Aphrodite. Ares generally supports the Trojans in the war.
10 years have passed since the Greek armies arrived in Asia Minor to lay waste in Troy and win back their honor. Yet in all those years, neither side has gained enough advantage to force a surrender. The Greeks remain encamped outside the walls of the city, their nighttime fires mocking the glittering firmament, while their generals plot stratagems and their warriors hone weapons. Among the Greek leaders that had sailed and hardened to war are Agamemnon, the commander-in-chief, Menelaus, king of Sparta and brother of Agamemnon, Odysseus, king of Ithaca and genius military of paralleled and cunning, and Aias the Great, a giant warrior of colossal strength. With sword and spear, with rocks and fists, the Greeks have fought the Trojans, led by the godlike Hector, their mightiest warrior, and Aeneas, a war machine second only to Hector on the Trojan side, to a standoff. In time, the Greeks believe they will prevail. They have right on their side after all. But even more important, they have Achilles. He is the greatest warrior ever to walk the earth, fierce. But alas, in the 10th year of the Great War, Achilles refuses to fight after Agamemnon insults him. No one can offend the great Achilles with impunity, not even Agamemnon, generals of generals, who can whisper a command that 10,000 will obey. The rift between them opens after Agamemnon and Achilles captured two maidens while riding the region around Troy. Agamemnon's prize is Chryseis, the daughter of the priest of the god Apollo. For Achilles, there is a beautiful Briseis who becomes his slave mistress. When Chryses, the father of Chryseis, offers a ransom for his daughter, Agamemnon refuses it. Chryses then invokes his patron Apollo for aid, and the sun god sends a pestilence upon the Greeks. Many soldiers die before Agamemnon learns the cause of their deaths from the soothsayer Calchas. Unable to wage war against the disease, Agamemnon reluctantly surrenders Chryseis to her father.
Unfortunately for the Greeks, the headstrong king then orders his men to seize Briseis as a replacement for his lost prize. Achilles is outraged, but rather than bending his wrath with his mighty sword, he retires from battle, vowing never again to fight for his countrymen. On his behalf, His mother, the sea nymph Thetis, importunes Zeus, king of the gods, to turn the tide of war in favor of the Trojans. Such a reversal would be fitting punishment for Agamemnon, but Zeus is reluctant to intervene in the war, for the gods of Olympus have taken sides, actively meddling in daily combat for him to support one army over the other would be to foment celestial discord among the deities. Favoring the Trojans are Ares, Aphrodite, Apollo, and Artemis. On the side of the Greeks are Athena, Poseidon, and Hera, the wife of Zeus. There would be hell raising in the heavens if Zeus shows partiality, in particular his wife's scalding tongue would wag without sources, but Zeus is Zeus, god of thunder and lightning. In the end, he will knows he can do as he pleases. Swayed by the pleas of Thetis, he confers his benisons on the Trojans. However, when the next battle rages, the Greeks, fired with Promethean defiance and succored by their gods, fight like madmen. Through their right arm Achilles is absent, but their left arm becomes a scythe that reaps a harvest of Trojans. Aias and Diomedes are especially magnificent, only intervention by the Trojans. Olympian supporters saved them from massacre. Alas, however, when the Trojans regroup for the next fight, Zeus infuses new power into Hector's sinews. After Hector bids a tender goodbye to his wife, Andromache, and little boy Asentanax, he leads a first charge that drives the Greeks all the way back to within sight of the shoreline where they had started 10 years before. Not a few Greeks, including Agamemnon, are ready to board their ships and set sail for home. Such has been the fury of the Hector-led onslaught.
Then Nestor, a wise old king of threescore and 10, advises Agamemnon to make peace with Achilles. The proud commander, now repentant and fully acknowledging his unjust treatment of Achilles, accepts the advice and pledges to restore Briseis to Achilles. When representatives of Agamemnon meet with lordly Achilles, the great warrior is idly passing time with the person he loves most in the world. His friend Patroclus, a distinguished warrior in his own right, told that all wrongs against him will be right. Achilles, still smoldering with anger, spurned the peace-making overture. His wrath is unquenchable. However, Patroclus, unable to brook the Trojan assault against his countrymen, borrows the armor of Achilles, and at the next opportunity, enters the battle disguised as Achilles. The stratagem works for a while as Patroclus chops and hacks his way through the Trojan ranks, but eventually Hector's spear fells brave Patroclus with no small help from meddlesome Apollo. The Trojan hero celebrates the kill with audacious coup de grace. He removes and puts on Achilles' armor, grievously saddened by the death of his friend and outraged at the brazen behavior of Hector. Wrathful Achilles, with a new suit of armor forged in Olympus by Hephaestus at the behest of Achilles' mother, Thetis agrees to rejoin the fight as long last.
The next day, Achilles rules the battlefield with death and destruction, cutting a swath of terror through enemy ranks. Trojan blood mulches the fields. Limbs lie helter-skelter, broken and crooked, as fodder for diving raptors. Terrified, the Trojans flee to the safety of Troy and its high walls, all of them, that is, except Hector. Foolishly, Out of his deep sense of honor and responsibility as protector of Troy, he stands his ground. In a fairy tale about a noble hero with an adoring wife and son, Hector would surely have won the day against a vengeful, all-devouring foe. His compatriots and the gallery of sons and daughters and wives peering down from the Trojan bulwarks would surely have crowned him king. But in the brutal world of Achilles, whose ability to disembowel and decapitate is a virtue, Hector suffers a humiliating death. After Achilles chases and catches him, he easily slays him, then straps his carcass to his chariot and drags him around the walls of Troy. Patroclus has been avenged. The Greeks have reclaimed battlefield supremacy, and victory seems imminent. However, old Priam, the king of Troy and the father of Hector, shows that Trojan valor has not died with Hector. At great risk to himself, he crosses the battlefield in a chariot and presents himself to Achilles to claim the body of his son. But there is no anger in Priam's heart. He understands the ways of wars and warriors. He knows that Achilles, the greatest of the Greek soldiers, had no choice but to kill his son, the greatest of the Trojan warriors. Humbly, Priam embraces Achilles and gives him his hand. Deeply moved, Achilles welcomes Priam and orders an attendant to prepare Hector's body. To spare Priam the shock of seeing the grossly disfigured corpse, Achilles orders the attendant to cloak it. Troy mourns Hector for 9 days, then burns his body and puts the remains in a golden urn that is buried in a bowless grave.
The Iliad, attributed to the ancient Greek poet Homer, is a rich epic tale filled with complex characters, heroic deeds, and timeless themes. One moral that can be drawn from the story is hubris leads to downfall, but humility and compassion pave the path to true greatness. Throughout the Iliad, the characters' flaws often lead to their own undoing. Achilles' pride and wrath bring devastation upon himself and others, while Hector's arrogance ultimately leads to his tragic demise. Conversely, characters like King Priam and Odysseus demonstrate the power of humility, empathy, and mercy, which not only enrich their own lives but also contribute to the greater good. Thus, the Iliad teaches us the importance of humility, compassion, and self-awareness in navigating the complexities of life and achieving lasting greatness.
The terrible consequences of war are the one of the morals in the Iliad. According to the Iliad, war is a cruel, destructive force that results in a great deal of loss and suffering. This is a helpful reminder of how crucial it is to try to resolve issues peacefully whenever necessary. Pain and difficulty throughout the conflict, both troops and civilians suffered greatly. As the poem depicts, Homer emphasizes the brutal reality of war by depicting the characters' emotional and bodily suffering.
The cause of pride and arrogance is one of the morals in the Iliad that portrays the consequences of excessive pride and arrogance, especially through the characters like Agamemnon and Achilles. Agamemnon's refusal to return Chrysos and his subsequent mistreatment of Achilles lead to disastrous consequences for the Greek forces. Similarly, Achilles' pride and anger result in a prolonged absence from the battle, and the loss of his dear friend Patroclus.
The role of honor and duty. Hector confronts Achilles despite the dangers because he feels it is his honor and duty to stand up for Troy. His dedication to his family and city is a wonderful example of the concept of sacrifice and obligation. Despite his disagreements with Agamemnon, Achilles eventually carries out his warrior duty and returns to the fight in order to exact revenge on Patroclus and aid in the Greek of victory.
Never-ending cycle of revenge. Among the key components in the Iliad is the tragic cycle of revenge, which highlights the disastrous effects of rampant wrath. The epic poem describes the never-ending conflict between the families of Achilles and Hector, showing how every act of vengeance leads to more misery and bloodshed. Agamemnon's remark provokes Achilles' fury, which starts a chain reaction of retaliation that causes countless tragedies and unimaginable suffering for both Greek and Trojans. Driven by pride, rage, and the need for vengeance, the cycle of revenge creates an endless circle of tragedy. Analyzing the stories of Achilles, Hector, and their families, the Iliad argues against the foolishness of seeking revenge and the terrible results that follow. Even while there are brief moments of victory, the unrelenting quest for retribution simply tends to worsen existing damages and extend suffering, leaving a path of destroyed lives and disappointments in its wake. In the end, the poem suggests that we must end this cycle of violence and pursue reconciliation, realizing that the only way to find healing and tranquility are through empathy and forgiveness.